all the people who are trashing Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett who can't even spell Tallarico. Now, let me be clear. I went down to Austin, Texas when they had that voucher scam bill.
Yes.
And I did a video with Representative Tallarico.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So I like Tallarico. I know my house is in her district. But what's killing me are the people who are trashing her, touting him, and they never mention his name before she got into the race.
Don't even know who he is.
Don't know who he is, don't know any policies. So I need all those people to sit their ass down.
Roland Martin is one of the most recognizable and trusted voices in Black political media. For decades, he has covered presidents and protests, elections, and emergencies, always insisting that context matters and that power must be questioned, not courted. In moments of national reckoning, Roland Martin has served as a conscience of the Black electorate, challenging institutions, elevating Black voices, and refusing to let our community be spoken about without being spoken to. His career spans print, radio, television, and now digital media, where he made a deliberate decision to invest in Black-owned platforms and Black audiences. That decision wasn't just about ownership. It was about independence, accountability, and the freedom to tell the full story. This conversation is about truth, responsibility, leadership, and legacy, and about where our democracy is headed next. This is At Our Table. I'm Jamie Harrison, and this is our conversation with the one and only Roland Martin. Brother Roland.
It's happening.
Happy New Year, brother.
Likewise, I had to represent my Houston Texans today. So, it's always a conversation. Then once football season over, then we move to basketball season. So then we represent my Rockets. Then we move to baseball season, represent my Astros. So
well, if anybody,
I'm 100% Houston.
That's what I'm saying. Anybody knows you, they know that you bleed Texas. Like Texas is your home.
No, Houston.
Houston.
You will never see me repping the Mavericks, the Spurs. I despise the Cowboys. So it's H-Town.
See, when you're in a state that big, you can have the luxury of having pick and choosing teams.
That's true. But it's only one that made the playoffs this year, and it's not the team that plays in Arlington, Texas. So yeah, all those whiny Cowboy fans, they know who the best team in Texas is, and it resides in Houston.
There are a lot of Cowboy haters across this country.
Oh, I despise them.
Yeah,
I remember Governor Ann Richards had a news conference. I was working. It was in Fort Worth, the church in Fort Worth. So I was walking her to the car, and she says, "Roland, big game on Sunday." I was like, "What game?" She's like, "What? The Super Bowl?" I was like, "Yeah, I forgot." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I want to see the Bills win." She goes, "Roland," she says, "the Cowboys are playing." I said, "Governor," I said, "I can't stand the Cowboys." And she was like, "What?" She said, "That's Texas." I says, "No, that's Dallas. I'm from Houston." I said, "I ain't never cheered for them. Not one game, not one half, not one quarter, not one series, not one down." I always tell a joke. I said, "I hate the Cowboys more than I hate the Klan." I came out the womb saying, hell no to the Cowboys. You understand?
I'm
100% Houston.
In South Carolina, that's like the Gamecocks versus Clemson.
Well, Gamecocks people don't want to bring up Texas A&M.
I don't want to bring that up.
Yeah,
right
you
now
want to bring that up.
Let me just stop right now.
I have a whole thread here.
No, that's okay.
I have a whole thread of Gamecocks, Anton Gunn, Bakari Sellers, Joteka Edie, Christina Q.
Well, I'm glad you didn't put me on that.
And that thread is called. I renamed it Gamecocks Losers. So Anton always talking trash. Y'all ain't done this in the SEC. I said, we own your school in the SEC. Yeah. So
let's get to politics.
Yeah. He moves on that quickly as well.
But before we get to politics, take us back to young Roland Martin.
Again, born and raised in Houston. It was 5 of us. We live 8 blocks from my grandparents. in Clinton Park. Clinton Park was a master plan community for African Americans during Jim Crow. My grandparents migrated from Opelousas, Louisiana, to Houston, and a lot of people know about the Great Migration, African Americans moving south to the north. What they don't often talk about is the Creole migration that took place from Louisiana, and they were really going west. Okay, so you look at the significant amount of African Americans who are from the Bay Area, but they're folks actually from Louisiana. So you take Paul Mooney, you take Bill Russell, and others. And so there were a significant number of people who left southern Louisiana, leaving Opelousas. And so if you actually follow that path, they came through Beaumont. Then you got Barrett, Barrett Station, Crosby, you got Liberty, and then you get to Houston. So one of the reasons Houston has this huge Black Catholic population because they migrated from Louisiana. That was my grandparents, and so growing up, they were stopped in Clinton Park. The Catholic church I grew up in, Our Lady Star to See Catholic Church, started in my grandparents' living room, because then they had to go door to door to get 50 families to start a church in that neighborhood. And that's one of the things that they did. So I come from a huge family. My maternal grandparents had 8 kids.
Wow.
Those 8 kids had 39 kids. Those 39 had something like 70, 75 grand. And then I think 120 plus great grand. So my grandfather died when I was 15. So every Sunday was spent at their house. I can't even, I'm talking about every Sunday. So we would go to church and then come home and either change or go straight to their house. And so the first time I actually spent the night at a non-family member's house was when I was in college. So I had school friends. I didn't have home
friends
because I had cousins.
Yeah. Same here.
And that was a thing for us. And so, mom worked in an insurance company, dad worked at Amtrak. Neither one went to college, but were hardcore when it came to education, family, faith, and so same way. But then I had also my grandmother had a catering business. My mom had a cake business. My dad cooked for the catering business. I had other aunts and uncles who also own small businesses. So I understood and saw entrepreneurship at an early age. And again, I started working in the catering business when I was 7. My brother did it. My brother did the year before I did. My brother's 1 year, 1 day older than me. So I catered from 7 to 30. So that is significant because there's so many parallels to media in terms of packing, in terms of gear, in terms of production, in terms of setting up, breaking down. And so much of what I learn in terms of how to move and flow all emanates from the catering business. All of it.
And I could see that. I can see the parallels and all of
and so like my crew folks get tired of me bringing it up because I remember we were in Tuskegee. I interviewed Fred Gray, and we had done some interviews in Atlanta. We go down to Tuskegee, and I walk out, and I'm sitting up, like, there's 5 of them standing there, and they got 6 or 7 cases by the side, and really like, it all can't fit. I was like, yeah, it all can fit. So I literally climb up in the Sprinter, start pulling everything down, take everything out. Then I was kind of like, hand me that, hand me that, hand me that, hand me that. And then all of a sudden I was done. I was like, all right, y'all lock this door, let's go.
It's a game of Tetris.
They were like, how in the hell did he sit here? But when people don't realize, there was some Saturdays we would have 3 weddings in one day. So then we had to pack the van, and it wasn't like we were making it was one van.
One van, and
it was this one
probably
large,
didn't have a whole.
It was this one large van, and it was one van. So we had to learn how to pack 3 weddings worth of stuff in one van. And so that was my summer.
Yeah.
June weddings were insane, but you're talking about, I did that from, like I say, from 7 till I graduated from high school, and then still came home and did stuff. So learning entrepreneurship, learning business, learning negotiation. Because when my grandmother would book a wedding, it would be in her dining room. Well, I would be over there sitting on the couch, and it'll be the bride's daddy or the groom. And so I'm listening, and even how I negotiate today, I would sit there and I would watch these folks spend 4, 5, 6 hours booking a wedding and then going over everything. And then they get to the bottom, and my grandmother has this legal pad. Well, here's the cost. Oh, Miss Lamont, this is all we had.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like, well, why in the hell did we waste 5, 6 hours? Why don't you come in saying this is how much money I got?
Yeah.
All right, this is the package I can put together.
Yeah.
So when I sit down with people, with companies now, nonprofits, whatever, who want me to broadcast, I'm like, hey, we ain't going through all that.
What's the
You're
budget?
going to tell me what your budget is,
Yeah.
and I'm going to lay out to you what we can do for this. And some people have looked at me like I was crazy, but it's for one, it's understanding worth, it's understanding your time.
Yep.
And I'm just not about to sit here and go back and forth. And that's also where I learned, I really, really, really learned that no is a complete sentence. Because I remember we took over the catering business. My grandmother retires, so my brother, myself, and my family, so we took over the business. Him and his family, they now own and control it. And it was like early on, and he was like, man, we really need this thing. I was like, no, we don't. He's like, yes, we do. I said, no, we don't. I said, here's the deal. Those folks are going to give us a $20,000 headache, but they only paying $5,000. If I'm going to get a $20,000 headache, I'd rather get $20,000. I'm not going to take $5,000. I said, you're going to get a $20,000. They going to harangue you and bother you like they paying full freight. I said, so no, we ain't doing that deal. So I would rather be at home putting or going to the driving range, playing golf or watching TV than to give my all and work, but I'm getting 25 cents on the dollar. And this is, I understand, I've told campaigns this. I've told, so y'all want to advertise on my platform. I've told Fortune 500 companies, I've told known people, but you're not going to play us small.
Yep.
We know our value, so you're not going to see them play us small. And I have a very good understanding of what we can deliver and what our business is. And I've literally told numerous people, nope. They've come back 3 or 4 times, nope. And it's what we have to understand is within our business, especially with Black-owned media, for so long, political campaigns and corporations have tried to get us to believe that a crumb is a meal.
Let's just throw them something.
And I'm like, no, that's a crumb. That's a crumb. And I know that's a crumb. And I'm willing to say no to the crumb. Because I remember I was ones that was told, well, we can give 4 Black newspapers this. I was like, well, that ain't me. I say, and that's a crumb. And so one of the reasons why we have not been able to really build a significant Black-owned media ecosystem is because we have been grossly disrespected and ignored. And let's be honest, folk want us to essentially be political sharecroppers.
Yeah.
They want us to go out there and work the fields, till the soil, pick the crops, but then don't reap the harvest. And my whole deal is no. So you want Black voters to carry the freight, but then you don't want to pay. So you want to pay consultants, you want to pay white media, you want to pay rates for television, for radio, for digital, but then when you want to get to us, you want to play us small. And I've seen this from presidential campaigns, U.S. Senate campaigns. I've seen this from congressional campaigns, mayoral campaigns. I've seen this from Fortune 500 companies, all across the board. And when you look at the numbers, $350 billion is spent annually on general market advertising.
Yep.
Black-owned media total. This is all Black-owned media. This is Urban One, Black Enterprise. It's all of us. 0.5 to 1% of the $350 billion. And so then when you look at on the political campaigns, same thing, because the agencies are the same agency that screw us in general market.
That's exactly right.
And so I'm telling you right now, within a lot of these political circles, they cuss my name. They are not happy, but I don't care because it's a lot of news I can cover, but I can't stay in business and hire people and provide for families and be able to grow if you trying to pay me 25 cents on the dollar.
How do we change the culture, Roland?
Oh,
What is your, because it's great that you do this, and I mean, tell you, man, for folks who don't know Roland Martin, Roland stands on his business. You stand on your business, and you don't mind telling people
No.
that you're wrong and
No.
I'm not doing it.
No.
How do we get more people to do that? How do we change the culture?
I think first and
overall?
foremost, what has to happen is, and the onus is really not on those on the receiving end. The onus is really on this entire infrastructure. I remember I was invited to this when I was with TV1. I was invited to this meeting, and it was a big reception here in DC, and it was all of the agencies and the buyers. So we go in there, and it's easily 500 plus people. There were 3 black people in the whole room. I was one of the 3. The room was nearly all white. We just got to be honest about it. The reality is, on the Republican side and the Democratic side, it is a white infrastructure. It is a largely white male infrastructure. And then what they then do is you'll have somebody who works for a consultant, works for an agency, and then what they'll do is they'll break off and create their own. And then all of a sudden, they've only been in business 1 year, 2 years. Next election comes around, all of a sudden they break them off 30, 40, 50, 60 million dollars in terms of running ads through their particular company, and they just started. This is a fact that no one.
Well, and we see it in politics. It's the same
That's
thing.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So what no one can dispute. Let's just take 2008 to present day.
Yep.
You cannot find me a major black-owned political advertising agency that has consistently gotten 8 or 9 figures in terms of being able to control.
Yep.
So what then happens is, so if they're running $100 million through your agency and your fee is 15%, then you're taking down $15 million. So what happens is they'll throw $200,000-300,000 to a black agency. They'll throw 100,000. I can tell you it was a joke in 2024 when people hitting me. Oh, we're doing this big campaign, and so we have 10,000. I remember I got a call. Again, it was an agency was working with the Biden-Harris campaign, and they hit me up and they were like, "Yeah, we want to do this ad buy for 20 some odd days in a month, and we've got like 22,000." I started laughing.
$22,000?
Yeah, I can pull email up. Another one hit me up. Oh, we had 8.
8.
Not 800, not 80.
Not 8 million.
$8,000.
But $8,000.
$8,000. So what has to happen, and I got no problem saying it. And see, this is where people also make the mistake. The same thing happened when you were chair.
Yeah.
They kept saying, "Well, what is Jamie doing?" Well, first of all, people don't understand the whole infrastructure has changed. The majority of the money used to come through the parties, DNC, RNC.
That's exactly right.
Now it's going through these
super PACs.
So the main PAC, when Vice President Kamala Harris got the nomination, not one time did Future Forward ever return an email or text message from me. I got the phone number of one of the 2 founders of the PAC. Never responded. Never. I took meetings with the Senate Majority PAC, House Majority PAC. The only reason I even got a meeting, because they wouldn't meet, they wouldn't even respond until a labor CEO, who I told the story to, called and said, "How in the hell y'all won't even meet?"
And I know who that labor CEO.
No, there was several. I told.
Oh, okay.
And several hit them up.
Yeah.
So here's the point I'm making, and we have to be honest. And this is where people don't understand how people get frozen out. What you have is an infrastructure, a general market American infrastructure that it has nothing to do with liberal, conservative, donkey, elephant, red, white. It does have to do with white. We just have to be honest about it. We are frozen out of the economic pie. It is literally economic apartheid being practiced today. It is. And folk don't want to deal with this. And so I have seen where they'll demand, and I see the same thing in general market.
Mhm.
They'll demand all of these metrics. What's your size? What's your reach? All this sort of stuff along those lines.
How big is your audience?
And all of that sort of stuff. And I'll look over here and go, well, how did they get 10 million? How?
And they're smaller than you.
You're like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. How did they get? And so what you have, and specifically on the Democratic side, there's a mentality of, well, we already got these voters. And I had been saying look, I'm Gen X.
Mm-hmm.
And I started seeing this among my peers when I was at Texas A&M.
Yep.
And I kept saying, I was like, y'all, demographics are shifting. If you look at the political data, you're 65 plus African American, you are very likely to identify as a Democrat. Well, then when you go down from that, all of a sudden you keep going down, you less self-identify. Now, when you look at voting numbers, 65 plus votes the highest out of anybody else. Well, then when you start going down, that number drops.
Yep.
So I was saying 30 years ago, hey, y'all are going to have to do more persuasion of Black voters because my generation, and again, my parents didn't go to college. My brother, myself, my sister, we were all at Texas A&M together. I was seeing African Americans who were walking out of college who were making more money than their parents did.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, we weren't talking about tax brackets. We weren't talking about stocks, bonds, investments, annuities. We weren't talking about those things. All of a sudden, you're now seeing African Americans who were making $50,000, $65,000, $75,000 coming out of college. So I'm listening to the conversations. And so I kept saying, I said, Republicans in any sense, they will understand what's happening and how to communicate when you're looking at where African Americans are. So when you start talking about school choice, I created school choice as a Black choice. African Americans like, listen, man, that's all great, but these kids ain't getting education. As Andrew Gillum, when he lost that race in Florida, exit polls showed 18% of Black women voted for DeSantis. There's no group that hates Republicans more than Black women. That's what Reince Priebus, when he was the chair of the RNC, told me in a meeting. No group hates us more than Black women. How in the hell he got 18%? Education scholarships.
Yeah.
So the point there is, how do you now communicate to voters? So you can't just keep assuming. We can run the old school model. We can go to some Black churches. We can go through some civil rights organizations, go talk to their folk in late September, in October. They go try it in November. No, the calculus has changed.
Yes.
And so now it doesn't mean that African Americans, if they don't self-identify, that they're not going to vote for the Democratic candidate, but you're going to have to now spend 3 to 4 times more money, 3 to 4 times more time talking and communicating. You're going to have to, as candidates, go to those platforms where they are. You can't just go, oh, I did ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, CNN. I can reach them. No,
they're
that's
not
how it
watching
works.
those.
And
Yes.
so that still exists. I still deal with right now folk on campaigns who gatekeep the candidates, who, what are you looking for? I want to have so-and-so on. And I'm sitting here. Look, I don't have a problem saying it. I'm still, Governor Roy Cooper announced he's running for United States Senate. I'm still waiting for him to come on the show. Now, I watched as he did all these other podcasts. Now, I hit his team.
Yep.
Now, here's what they don't understand. This ain't me. It's the data. When I was in Chicago at the Democratic National Convention, Google, when you hit a certain level, Google assigns you your own person.
That's exactly right.
YouTube does.
Yep.
I sit down, and this is what the guy tells me. He says, we group you with all these other progressive shows. He said, you may not call yourself progressive. I said, I don't. I said, I'm not progressive. I'm not conservative. I'm not liberal. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I said, I'm Black.
You speak to Black America.
We know what we, I said,
Exactly
who we center. This is what he told me. He said, when we group you, it blew us away. He said that when it came to time spent watching, listening, you were number 1 out of all those shows.
Because not only do people turn on, they stay on.
He said 9, almost 10 minutes. He said you were number 1. He said we were surprised. You take YouTube's top 100 podcasts. I'm the only black news
in
show
the 100.
Only one since they launched it. On March 4th, 2025, when Trump spoke to Congress, we did call the State of Our Union.
Yes, exactly right.
We said we ain't carrying his speech.
Yeah.
Bishop William Barber's going to give the State of Our Union. When I tossed to Bishop Barber, I sent a text message out. And I was like, hey, turn networks off. Let's hit 100,000. Up until that point, the most live viewers we ever had was when the Tyree Nichols video from Memphis was released at 7 p.m. Between 7 p.m. to 7:25, we hit 29,000 live viewers. That night, we had 250,000. We were of all the people covering that speech that night, we were number 5 on all of YouTube. Not number 5 black.
All of YouTube.
All. Fox Nation, Fox News, White House, and AP were the only 4 above us. Now, if I'm trying to reach black folks, I would be making a beeline to say, how can I advertise on this platform?
Yep.
I would be rushing to do that. But then when it comes to campaign spending, and then when it comes to, again, general market, I see how money is being spent elsewhere. And I sit there and I go, And see, what we've done is we've removed every excuse. Oh, you don't have that. Oh, you don't have. Oh, you don't have. Nope. I can do studio. I can do remote. I can go 10 robotic cameras in the studio. I can do 8 cameras remote. We could be on the scene. What do you need? You need tags. You need this. You need that. Okay. What do you need?
Because you have it all within your studio, within your network.
We got it. So we remove all excuses. The reason this is important is because if you do not have a business infrastructure, you have no business.
Yes.
You can't, you got to have that. And that's our problem. And so this is the struggle for African Americans today, being able to build and grow. See, the issue right now is not just we need more black businesses. No, we need more black businesses with capacity.
Yes.
We don't need more one-person black-owned businesses. We need more black-owned businesses that went from 1 to 3 to 5 to 8 to 15 to 20 to 25 to 50 employees who are now doing 8, 10, 20, 30, 50, $100 million in revenue. That's what the whole issue is. And so when I look at this whole ecosystem, when I look at it right now, you have all these progressives and Democrats that are trying to figure out how do we catch up with digital? First of all, it's sitting right in front of you. But what you can't have are individuals who control the purse strings. And I've even seen it where individuals have told the candidates, we got this. Black candidates, but we got this. Like, don't even come talk to us about this, because they want to separate them from the business of politics.
Yeah.
See, people don't understand. Politics is the business of politics, and it's the politics of politics.
And you're spot on. I mean, I can tell you, even on my Senate race, like, you're spot on. It was like, well, you should just focus on getting those voters out there and this and that. And then, some of the folks, the powers that be at the DSCC, we'll work on the back end in terms of all of us. I mean, we raised more money than
I remember
any Senate race.
And then when you start, when you start sitting down and you start talking about
exactly right.
Where the voters are, you're like, hold on, wait a minute. How have you not spent any money on black newspapers? Oh, well, we already got them. No. You don't understand. So it happened when Warnock's campaign against Herschel Walker. By the middle of September, they had not purchased any advertising. All those little small black gospel radio stations in rural Georgia, no money was being spent on those folks. First of all, those are small amounts of money to even drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
But the point is, how do you win? The fact of the matter is, Trump is sitting, the Republicans control the House by a total of 7,000 votes.
Yep.
7,000 votes. When you look at
in a country of 360 million
when
people.
You look at the battleground states won, look at the whole number. So the key right now is the margins.
Yes.
This is now a margin battle. When House Speaker Don Scott Virginia called me and said, hey, man, I saw what you did in a Warnock race. Hey, I want to see it in advertising your platform. Can you do town halls? Like, absolutely. What did we do? We did town halls, 5 cities in Virginia. and we had all of these different candidates come on talking about their platforms. Listen, they got pressed by me as well.
Yep.
What then happens? He wins. Now, why was I willing to support Don? Let's be clear. Don Scott is an alpha brother of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Don Scott pledged at Texas A&M. So we both Aggies and we both alphas. He went to Sterling High School in Houston. My high school, Jack Yates, kicked their butt all the time. So that's a trifecta.
He's good brother.
It's Houston, it's alpha, it's Texas A&M. But the point there, and so I want to see him become Speaker of the House. So the point there is, he said, Martins, that I got no problem saying there were white Democrats who were saying, man, what are you doing? Why are we doing this? He said, y'all don't understand. He said, you may go, well, 50 people showed up to the church. He said, but did you see the thousands that were streaming? They were calling them saying, hey, I couldn't make it out because I was getting off of work. I was cooking dinner, but I was watching Roland stream. I was watching the show.
Man, they were talking about that in my barbershop. They were talking about your show in my barbershop the next day. Yeah, man, I watched Roland
Kwame Kilpatrick sent me a text of him in the same thing in the barbershop, and it was a shot of, they had my show on the screen.
Yeah.
And so this is what and I call it like it is. This is what white political consultants, white Democratic strategists, white media buyers do not understand. This is no longer 1980, 1990. This ain't even Obama's campaign. You now have to go where folks are all over the place. And how you spin has to be able to impact. And you now have to be reaching people even earlier. I remember sitting down with Vice President Kamala Harris. It was a dinner she did with Black men. This was November 2023. I said, come January, I said, January to July has to be educate,
yep,
inform, enlighten. I said, y'all going to spend 7 months doing this before you get to the convention. I said, y'all should be sitting here in every city across this country. You should have a matrix of having city council members, county commissioners, school board members holding town halls, talking about the issues, talking about what matters. So these are the things that are happening. This is what we deal with every single day. My viewers, the people who watch every day, people are like, man, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that was happening. Oh, I didn't know what's going on. When the Democrats said we ain't cooperating with y'all with the shutdown of the government, I was walking people through why the healthcare discussion mattered. And so we were spending time walking through that. The greatest mistake that I believe so many people make in politics is they assume the everyday voter lives and breathes stuff like they do.
And they don't.
They don't.
They don't.
So
you have to constantly teach.
You have to teach. You have to connect the dots.
Yep.
I had a sister who called me. This is Hillary in 2016. She's like, well, I ain't feeling Hillary. I ain't feeling Trump. I'm just going to focus on issues in my state. I said, oh, she was a radio call. I said, where you from? She said, North Carolina. I said, okay, name me the 3 issues. She named the 3 issues.
Mm-hmm.
I tied every single one of her issues in North Carolina right back to the judiciary.
Yep.
To the president, to the Senate, to the House. And she was like, oh my God. I was like, yes. She had no idea that Senator Tillis and Barr had blocked 3 black women from the federal bench.
Uh-huh.
No idea. Had no idea about. I said, no, you got to understand how these things are connected. I experience this every single day traveling this country. I don't just sit behind a microphone in D.C. I mean, we hit the road. We've been in Montgomery. We've been in Atlanta. We go to Charlotte. We've been in Raleigh. I'm gonna be in Raleigh with Bishop Barber in February. We are on the ground. We're talking to these people. We're talking to local politicians. I guarantee you, there ain't no other show that's had more black mayors on my show than you could take all other shows combined, and they ain't had as many black mayors.
I'm sure it has.
So we're hearing those, what I call micro issues, not spending a lot of time on macro in D.C.
Roland, I'm going to share this personal moment. You and I saw each other in New York. We were in the airport, flew down to Charlotte. And you were going to another flight. I was connecting to go to Columbia.
I was going to the Montgomery anniversary.
Yes.
Montgomery bus boycott.
In the 30 minutes that we spent together in the airport, walking from our gate, maybe we were on B or C in Charlotte over to E. I would say in that 30 minutes, at least 50 black folks.
And several white folks.
Yep. came up to either shake your hand, to ask if you'd take a selfie, to say thank you for what you do. I learned so much from your show. And that just gave me a microcosm to, I don't know if there's anybody else really in journalism but have that type of emotional impact
No,
with their audience.
no. And I'll say no.
So what is it, Roland, then, that has allowed you to have that special connection to the people who watch your show?
First thing is, let's be perfectly clear. Not just black people watch my show.
Yeah.
I got we don't do subscriptions. I got a letter one day from a 70-year-old white gay man. He said, "Here's my $50 contribution." He said, "I love learning from your show." And we've had some 36,000 donors to the show since we started. But first, I love black people. I'm not afraid to say that. I'm not afraid to call out racism, bigotry, and what we see in this country. But the other thing is, when you talk about loving black people, the first time I got paid was from a black newspaper, Houston Defender, son of Miss Giles. I later became managing editor. I ran the Chicago Defender. I ran the Dallas Weekly. I worked at the Dallas Examiner. I major broadcasting cable network, TV One, Tom Joyner Morning Show, WVON Radio in Chicago. I've done stuff for Ebony, for Essence. I mean, the list is on. And for me, I look at the history of America, the history of black-owned media. I look at Freedom's Journal, the first black newspaper, launched March 16th, 1827. And the front page editorial, and that's actually there's a mural in my studio.
In your studio,
with a pull-out quote from the third paragraph. It said, "We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us." So the thing is, that was my foundation before coming into mainstream. See, what often happens is most African Americans do not have a black-owned media experience. They have a mainstream media experience. So what then happens is they have been conditioned to think mainstream. Mainstream actually means white. That's just what it means in this country. So mainstream is not how to use center African Americans. So for me, because of how I started, I understood centering. So African Americans were not a part of they were not like a throwaway. No, they were a central part of the conversation. When I was doing my stuff with WVON and going to Jonah and CNN, even when I was there, I was not about to suppress my blackness because I was one of the few black folks sitting up on the stage. I remember the night Obama wins South Carolina, and I wish one of my former CNN colleagues would clip this and send it to me. So we're on the set. Obama wins South Carolina. I'm on the set. Bill Bennett is by satellite. And Bill Bennett says on CNN.
And for folks that know, Bill Bennett was big conservative.
Education secretary, had a radio show on Salem, on sort of. He goes, "Well, when Jesse Jackson won South Carolina, that was black history. This tonight is American history." I was like, what the fuck did he? I was like, fuck it. I said, "Turn my microphone on." And so Bill's talking to Wolf. I was like, "Turn my microphone on." And the floor director, he goes, "Roland is trying to get in the conversation." And so so Wolf turns to me. So I go, "No, I can't sit here and allow you to say that." And so I start breaking down. These are all the black folks who won on Reverend Jackson's coattails.
Yes.
These are the people who became county commissioners, city council members. These are the 2 million put on the roll. This is how Richard Shelby was elected United States Senator in Alabama. I said he rewarded the Democrats by flipping to a Republican. I said, so no, I can't let you sit on national television on this night and say what Reverend Jackson did was black history. So then they go back to Bill. And then Bill doubles down. Now it didn't piss me off again. So I was like, turn my damn microphone on. And so they come back to me. I said, hold up, Bill. I said, let me explain something to you. I said, if Reverend Jackson does not run in 84, 88, I said, you could not see Donna Brazile being a campaign manager for Al Gore. I said, if Reverend Jackson does not run in 84, 88, I said, we ain't never heard of this short white man from Minnesota named Paul Wellstone, I said, who was Reverend Jackson's Minnesota state director, who later became United States Senator. So I just started running it. And so he was like, after that, it was like, no mas. I was not about to back down. Oh my God, this is Bill Bennett.
Yeah.
No. And I'm about to lay out Black facts, which are American facts. And so Black folks would stop me and they would say, bruh, you say the stuff that I'll be sitting at home or in the barbershop or with my boys. And that's the thing. And so this here is so personal to me because I know the impact for good and for evil it can have.
And on that point, this is a great segue. I know how personal this is to you. But you operate in a space where disagreements sometimes play out publicly.
Understand, I went to Jack Yates High School, Magnet School of Communications. So since the age of 14, this is all I've known. So my foundation was rooted in facts, rooted in media. And so that's the basis of, and so when I've had disagreements with people, disagreements based upon facts.
Yeah.
But also what I don't like what happens, because when the lie goes out or when something just throws out, it's
Stephen A. Smith.
His representative. I'll never forget Newsweek.
Yeah.
Newsweek, this when Biden and Harris were there. Newsweek did a cover story. Biden cuts $35 billion from HBCUs.
Yep. That was a lie that was promulgated over and over and over again.
So AP first did a story. They did that. I remember Jamal Bryant, Tamika Malin, and some others. They put the cover on their Instagram. I woke up that morning. I said, take that shit down. That's wrong. For 6 weeks, I walked through. I hit Congressman Bobby Scott. I hit Congressman Jim Clyburn. I got the Excel spreadsheet showing the numbers. I pulled exactly where information came from. But here's the problem. That cover story, AP did a story, Newsweek does a story, NBC News does a story based off the same wrong information. So the outset of the wrong information just wildfire. Now the problem is all of the work that I did to show that this is a lie doesn't compare to it being here.
Because once it hits AP, then all the newspapers across
So what it was it was a campaign promise of what he was going to spend for it, but the statement was HBCUs and HSIs, Hispanic Serving Institutions. In its initial bill, which was a $10 trillion bill, it got 5, 2.5, 1.5, Manchin screwed it, never got passed. That's how it got cut. So nuanced, the facts were not there. When somebody spreads the lie, spreads the misinformation, or when an evil actor drives the disinformation, people pick up on it, sees it, sends it out, and now it blows up. And now you're trying to now reel that thing in. Well, why are you protecting the Democrats? I'm not protecting the Democrats. I'm protecting the facts. And so that's why this is so important. That's why what you write is so important. What you say, the television, all these things are so important because people will believe the lie so quickly. And now harm is done because they're making decisions. And we know this for a fact that after 2016, the largest Black Lives Matter Facebook page was a bot farm for somewhere else. We see how we've been attacked. And so our community, we have to be extremely careful who's driving us information, which means we've got to have trusted voices that will do the research and come back and lay it out factually to people, which goes back to why I'm so hardcore on the investment side, because just imagine if Black Star Network was able, when I look at the rest of these folks, to get 10, 20, 30, $40 million in advertising. I now can have 40, 50, 60, 75 staff newsroom.
That's exactly right.
I now can have multiple reporters in cities across the country. I can have folk who are instantly on it. So we just retooled blackstarnetwork.com to become a Black news portal. Then we're launching a daily news show on the network. We're launching a weekly health show, plus my 2-hour show. I want to launch other shows. The problem that we have right now is we have a dearth of factual information.
Mm-hmm.
And by having a dearth of factual information, I'm talking about how do you spell it out? Now, granted, you got some people who say, I ain't believing none of it. But what I'm talking about is we have to be constantly feeding, nurturing. This is in essence, I talk about news deserts. It's like food deserts.
Yep.
If you start feeding folk the right nutrients and fruits and vegetables and protein and stuff along those lines, all of a sudden, their body begins to change. The same thing happens with the news.
So pretty much, and I'm going to say this to any of you billionaire donors out there who are frustrated with disinformation or wondering how is this stuff getting out there. One of the ways that you can cure that, invest in Black Star Network. Invest in what you are building there so that we can continue to get that information, the true information, the facts.
Because see, what people don't understand how this whole game has changed, Jamie. You used to have newspapers. You had an education beat writer. I was at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. There were 2 of us covering City Hall.
Yeah.
No,
now there's probably none.
You don't have that. And so what people don't understand is there's been an absolute collapse.
That's exactly right.
Of news media. Now, what do you have today? And here's what people don't understand. Your entire television media ecosystem, national and local, has always been driven by the newspapers. Always. Your radio, the newspapers. So I remember working in television. An intern at at KBTX. What the hell was on the Bryan College Station Eagle? It's going to be on the television. And so that's how it was. So what do we have now? We got a bunch of people who are commenting on stuff. They're not reporting,
which are different things.
Absolutely. So if you don't have that, so if you don't have some folks who are combing through, who are actually sitting in committee hearings, combing through documents, that's why I've had ProPublica on the show. Marshall Fund, I really hope they do more stuff, what they're doing. So you got all these people. We're trying to do the exact same thing on the Black side. You don't have that. And to your point of support, I built this with $350,000 of my own money. One sponsor asked me, my man Lee Saunders.
Yeah, love Lee.
They were our only sponsor for the first 2 years. And the donors of my audience. Again, people giving $1, $5, $10. We asked for $50 each for 20,000 people a year to raise $1 million. But it's factual information. But it's just but I'm just one person. We've hired 3 or 4 other people, but this is the problem that we're in. People are getting on the national level, on the state, and it's even worse on the state and the local level. They are not getting base facts and understanding. And when we start educating people on, no. This is the reality about data centers.
Yeah.
This is what's happening with property taxes. This is what's happening with spending here. People then go, man, I didn't know that. Oh my God. So I'm not just about let's feed more commentary. No, we need factual information for people to make great choices.
Roland, we do something on this show called your Sit Your Ass Down Award, SYAD. And it is something that we present to somebody who you just thinks, is wrong. They need to sit down. They need to get themselves back together. Who would you say would be your recipient of this week's Sit Your Ass Down Award?
Oh my goodness. Man, that's a whole lot of people. That's a whole lot of media outlets. It's a whole lot of folks.
You can pick a group,
I'm trying to think.
Or you can narrow it down.
Here's it right now. The sit your ass down people are all the people who are trashing Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett who can't even spell Tallarico. Now, let me be clear. I went down to Austin, Texas when they had that voucher scam bill.
Yes.
And I did a video with Representative Tallarico.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I like Tallarico. I know my house is in her district. But what's killing me are the people who are trashing her, touting him, and they never mention his name before she got into the race.
Don't even know who he is.
Don't know who he is, don't know any policies. So I need all over to sit their ass down. because I've hit these folk, and I'm sick of these white progressives who don't live in Texas, and I see them, I go to their bio. They asses in New York, San Francisco, Kansas, Missouri. I'm like, y'all don't know nothing about Texas. You know nothing about the politics of Texas. You don't know how to mobilize voters in Texas, but all of a sudden, your ass like you got an expert opinion.
You're the expert.
They need to sit their ass down.
Well,
that's who need to sit down, because they really getting on my damn nerves. Because again,
mine too.
If you want to support Tallarico, fine. If you want to support Crockett, it's fine. But this notion of don't give her money, she can't win. And I'm sitting there going, but you can't even name one policy. And again, if you go to Twitter and pull up their name, you could do a search of how many times they mention somebody's name on their feed. No mentions whatsoever. I'm like, man, go sit y'all ass down.
And how do you know that she can't win? When the polls show her competitive, just as competitive as
these
James.
people don't. What these people don't understand is, again, Texas is 61%
minority. Right?
It is 61% African American, Latino, Asian American, Native American, but 60% of the people who vote in Texas are white. Texas's problem is it is people like, oh no, it's hardcore red. When Beto lost to Governor Greg Abbott, 75% of voters 30 and under did not vote.
Wow.
When you talk, Texas has the largest number of eligible black voters than any state in the country. So now the question is, well, what's the turnout number?
Mm-hmm.
If black folks if black people in Texas are turning out at 52, 55%, well, what then happens if you try to drive that to 70, 75? I've been on this whole mission of needing 70% black turnout across the country in terms of our eligible voters. So that's what you're dealing with. So for the longest, you didn't have investment in Texas.
Yep.
You didn't have the party investment in Texas. It's a massive state, 254 counties. And so people don't study the race. People like, oh my God, Crockett, they were like, already had the best shot. He lost by 10 points to Ted Cruz. Better lost by 2.5 points. So then it's like, well, no, we need a white moderate. I actually one day, I actually went back to every single Texas Senate candidate that ran since Lloyd Benson won last time. And you know what? You got white men in there, white women in there. You got Latinos in there. You got African Americans in there. I'm like, so y'all know what y'all talking about. So it's folk who have no understanding at all of the state, its demographics, and any of that. They couldn't tell you how performance is in West Texas, South Texas, voters in East Texas. They got no clue whatsoever. They couldn't tell you that Tarrant County is a last remaining county that Republicans control, large county, because Democrats control Harris, Dallas, Bexar, Travis. They got no clue. So yeah, I need them to sit their ass down.
Well, folks, you heard it from the man who knows Texas and Texas politics probably better than anybody, Roland Martin. Roland, thank you so much, man, for being here. We really appreciate you. Thank you for being at our table. Thank you for being a voice for so many. And thank you for standing up. Black-owned media.
Absolutely.
You're the face of it, brother.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, man. If you enjoyed today's show, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or anywhere you find your podcasts. To be the first to know who will be at our table next, be sure to subscribe to our Substack on jamieharrison.substack.com. At Our Table with Jamie Harrison is a production of Vision Blue Media. Our founding executive producers are Jason Hyder and Jamie Harrison. Our producer is Kyle Kelly. Our content consultants are Ernie Grigg and Clay Middleton. Our digital communications are led by Lauren Brown. Inez Smolansky provides production legal. Title sequence by Tom Hunt. Our theme song, Blonde Gone, is written by Dewey and published by Alibi Music Library. This episode was recorded at the DNC studios in Washington, D.C., and engineered by Johnny Wood, Jake Wofford, and Scott Brown. Very special thanks to Roland Martin and his team. I'm Jamie Harrison, and I look forward to another conversation at our table.